Hello everybody, it's Zoe here. Sorry, give me 1 second. We'll make this work. Nice to see you all. I'll give you all a second to log in. If you're watching the replay, just flick forward a couple of minutes while I let everybody get in and get sorted. I'm going to make sure this works properly. All right. First of all, I want to say a massive thank you to all of you for your support with the course. It's super exciting and I'm really, really pleased that there's so many of you that have decided to join in. So we've got 2 weeks to wait until we really get going, but in the meantime, if you've got questions, just let me know. We've got quite a few people here, which is awesome. We've got Leanne and Ruth. Hi Ruth, hi Katrina. Who else was there at the beginning? Jenny, you're here. Hey Jenny, how are you? And oh, this is being a bit funny today. And Lynn, hi Lynn, nice to see you. So today I wanted to have a little bit of a chat about the weekly challenge that I set you this morning, which is about the 4 pillars. So I just kind of wanted to explain that a little bit more. I have a question from Jenny and about soups and whether or not they are good and why not, and whether you can eat them. Oh, thank you, Jenny. Jenny's put it on the site, put the Back on Track course on the site. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If anybody else wants to share the Back on Track course, please feel free. You can send them the link and you can also give them a the code 20 off. Let me double check that. Yes, 20 off, and that's for friends and family. So if anybody has anyone else that you think it might be useful for, that's absolutely fine. Just please don't share the back 6 code, because that's especially for you guys, and the 50% off code is especially for you guys. So just if you want to share, that's absolutely fine, but the 20 off one would be fab. All right, Beck's here and Sarah's here, which is awesome, and somebody else came on. Chantel came on there as well, which is fabulous. So let's chat about the 4 pillars. Yes, Jenny, 20 off. 20 off. That's it. So the 4 pillars, let me check. In the 4 pillars, I guess starting back at the beginning, when I was kind of writing the Back on Track course for you all, I kind of thought, what are the things that are really important? What are the things that are really common in terms of people kind of feeling like they've failed or feeling like they've got off track? One of the things that I thought was really important to do, which we're doing the first, is kind of a little bit about goal setting and kind of doing a self-assessment, a bit of soul searching as to what's going on at the moment, because I feel like if you don't kind of have awareness of what's going on now, you don't really kind of know where you want to get there or how you're going to get there. Okay, where you want to go or how you're going to get there. So the 4 pillars bit is kind of like the big chunk in the middle of the course, and the 4 pillars is how I think about those people that are successful with keeping the weight off in the long term. And there's lots of research into this as well. We know the habits of people that are successful of keeping weight off in the long term, and there's this awesome long-term weight registry which really looks at the habits of those successful people that manage to lose weight with surgery or not, but especially with surgery, and how they've managed to do that. So the first pillar, the way I like to think about it, the first pillar is what you eat. So we talk about that quite often, and lots of questions that I get are around what you want to eat, or what you should be eating. And this is different for everyone. So I know Jenny's here, and Jenny is on more a low carb, high fat kind of diet. Other people are a little bit more moderate, just eating smaller portions. Some people need to change what they're eating based on their exercise, for example, and eat a little bit more. Other people have medications that they're taking that they might need to change, or other medical issues where they might need to change their diet slightly. So that's okay. What you eat is specific to you, but there are some key things that sit sit in what to eat. And I guess one of the main things is what probably every nutritionist and dietitian out there would agree on, is trying to eat less processed food and really going for the unprocessed food. And I like to think of that as quality over quantity. So if we're going for quality over quantity for after weight loss surgery, that's our things like talking about half protein, half veggies at meals, only having a snack in between if you're hungry, and making sure that you're getting those good quality foods. So if we have the what you eat pillar working well, that's good. That's kind of like a good strong base that's holding up our success. All right. The second pillar I think about is how you eat. And that's, are you actually eating when you're hungry, or are you eating when you're not hungry for other reasons like stress or habit or boredom? Are you eating slowly? Are you taking 20 to 30 minutes for your meals? Are you chewing your food? Are you taking small mouthfuls? Are you eating in front of the TV, or are you eating when you're actually paying attention? Are you eating and drinking at the same time? And we'll get to that one, Jenny, later on this afternoon or this evening. So if you have the what you eat pillar and you have the how you eat pillar, they can really provide that stable base for long-term success. But if you think about yourself balancing on to, maybe if you're anybody do yoga, when you do 4 kneeling, so 4 kneeling is hands and knees, on your hands and knees. If you take a hand and a knee away, you are very much unstable, right? So when you're unstable with 2 pillars, the how you eat and the what you eat, you probably can still stand, but actually we need at least 1 more pillar working well to be more stable. So the third pillar is your movement. Your movement, really we're looking at moving your body as much as you can during the day, or at least regularly throughout the day. If you have an office job, for example, it's more difficult, but you should still remind yourself to get up every hour or so and at least kind of do a little loop around the office, get up and have a stretch. I know Kat, I'm pretty sure it was Kat, was saying that yeah, Katrina was saying that she does between 5 and 10 kilometers a day when she's doing when she's at work. So that's a huge bonus. People that are working on their feet have a huge bonus because they just generally use more energy during the day. So if you then think, okay, at work I'm going to try and be as active as possible, the next easiest thing you can do to move a bit more is to focus on how you're getting to work and how you're going home. So if we can get to work on our own steam, it just means that movement is built into our day. So I'm going to ride to work tomorrow. You can all hold me to that. I'm going to try and ride to and from work on Tuesdays, so you can check in on me the next fortnight. Now it's finally getting like a tiny bit warmer. I can sort of manage it. Also, those little bits of time where can you park a little bit further away? Can you, when you're going to the shops on the weekend, can you walk a little bit, or can you park outside of the car park so you have to walk a bit further to get there? Jenny, you've just said you started parking at the back of the station, at the parking lot, and taking the stairs. Awesome, taking the stairs instead of the lift, that's a big one too. And hopefully after the surgery, you notice that you can do more of those things without as much effort. So it actually gets easier and easier. It's a bit more motivating to keep going, which is good. Then we want to think about that moderate to vigorous exercise, and that's really important. That's where you get the benefit for your heart, the endorphins, for your brain and for your mood. So ideally we want to do some moderate to vigorous exercise sort of 3 to 4 times a week. Okay, so that might be, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes where you're huffing and puffing each day, just kind of building that throughout the week is what we want. The third part of movement is really looking at strength training, because the more muscle you have, the more energy you burn at rest, and the easier it is for you to maintain your weight loss, okay? Because you're just sitting around, the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn, okay? So the way to build muscle, we really want to try and put in some strength training about 2 to 3 times a week if we can. And sometimes strength training is that moderate to vigorous exercise as well. Like I know Vanessa's doing lots of HIIT training. So if you're doing HIIT training, it's that high intensity interval training. You're going to be huffing and puffing, but you're also doing some of those strength exercises as well. So you're building some muscle. So that's the movement pillar. All right, so now we have the first pillar of what to eat, the second pillar of how to eat, and the third pillar of movement. We're getting a lot more stable. So the last one, to be super stable and successful in the long term, what we're after there is all the other stuff. So that's the lifestyle things. So really looking at stuff like stress, sleep, our work and how we're coping, how we're managing maybe work and family and other commitments as well. And most important, and I know this is a hard one, and Becky, you were talking about this today, it's the head, the mindset. All right, so the mindset is such a tricky one. So we spend quite a lot of time talking about mindset, but it is really about kind of being gentle with yourself and not beating yourself up or feeling like a failure if it's not all clicking into place. And maybe sometimes you need to give yourself a little bit of leeway. So at the moment, I've got Andy, who just had a wrist reconstruction on Friday, and the course is launching, and it's really busy with teaching. And I kind of know that at the moment for me, my exercise is probably going to be the one that is not as full on as usual. Because if I was doing that as full on as I usually do, as well as everything else, I'd probably fall in a heap. So being a little bit gentle with yourself and saying, okay, so for the next 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks, I'm going to do my best with the movement pillar, but I know that it's going to be an extremely stressful time, and so I'm going to do my best with the movement pillar because I know that's good for my mood, but I'm not really going to be pushing myself as hard as I normally would, because that's going to take a whole lot of energy that I might just not be able to expend. Okay, my energy is going elsewhere. The thing with the sleep is hard, and Jenny, you've said sleep is your nemesis. I know we've had this chat before. You had kids that didn't sleep very, very well for a long time. Look, sleep is one of those things that's really, really important for our cortisol levels and our stress levels. And if our cortisol is high, it means we're more likely to store fat around our middle, and we're more likely to feel hungry, and we're less able to kind of deal with bugs like flus and colds because our immune system is depressed. So sleep is so important for recovery. And it's so interesting. So Andy just bought a thing called a Whoop. I don't know if anybody's heard of that, but basically looks at your heart rate variability. So any slight changes in your heart rate, and it sort of tells you whether how much sleep you need to just get by, how much sleep you need to do okay, and how much sleep you need if you're going for peak performance. And the difference is huge in the hours of sleep you need for peak performance versus the sleep you need to just get by. So I feel like a lot of the time we're burning candles at both ends and we're just getting by, but actually if we could carve out a little bit more time, we'd probably get more done during the day. We'd feel a bit more productive, and then we could manage that a little bit better if we had a couple of hours more sleep, if at all possible. Jenny, 3-hour wake-ups for 7 years. This is crazy. I don't even know how you survived. I guess you have no choice, do you, with kids? Absolutely, really, really important. I know you struggle to get more than about 6 hours, but if you can get a little bit more, it will be super helpful. Does anybody else struggle with sleep? Are there any tips that you guys put in to help you get more sleep? Because I think it's really, really important, one that we don't kind of talk about enough. So that's the fourth pillar. is there anything you want me to elaborate on the fourth pillar? Maybe in the next, we've spoken about mindset before, but maybe in the next live Q&A we can talk about mindset in a bit more detail. We've spoken about emotional eating, and the emotional eating bit is one of those triggers, and that kind of sits in that fourth pillar as well. So all of your triggers for eating, and how you deal with self-sabotage, how you deal with setbacks, but how you deal with setbacks, that all sits within that fourth pillar too. So that's a real toughie. So if we can maybe kind of a little bit easier to get under our belt as that key support is the how you eat, the what you eat, and the movement. And then the fourth pillar we can kind of try and slowly chip away at, because that is a hard one to change. Beck used a relaxation or meditation app to help me get to sleep. So for you, the getting to sleep is the hard bit, but once you're there, it's okay. I'm a bit like you, Beck. And Andy, my husband, is too, and we just play a podcast. We play something like Stuff You Missed in History Class, or stuff they don't want you to know, or how stuff works. And it's kind of like interesting enough to kind of take your mind off the other things that you might be thinking about, but it's boring enough and monotone enough to send you to sleep. I know the Calm app has sleep podcasts read by Stephen Fry, so maybe that's something to try as well. And the mindset bit we'll dig into a little bit more. Water's the other one that I haven't decided yet whether water fits in what you eat, or the fourth pillar, the everything else pillar. I've mentioned it in the what to eat, but I also think it kind of sits in that fourth pillar too, because if we're dehydrated, then we feel more tired, we can't concentrate, we can't focus, we get more hungry, and then we reach for those foods that give us maybe a quick boost of energy, but don't really help us in the long term. Jenny, okay Google, play relaxing meditation music. Perfect. And Ruth, I read for 30 minutes before bed. That's a really good one too. And having that sleep routine where on the iPhone, I don't know about Android, you can set a do not disturb, and you can set a sleep reminder, like a phone down reminder, which reminds you to put your phone down. It says in 10 minutes, you should be, or in half an hour, you should be in bed, and it's that reminder to go to bed. So that's another option as well. Chantel, great question. Alcohol definitely sits in the everything else bucket. So alcohol is one of the things that is really dangerous after a sleeve in terms of weight regain. It's one of the things that is also can be dangerous, as we can turn to alcohol as a replacement coping mechanism instead of food when you're finding food isn't as satisfying, or you're not able to eat as much. So definitely alcohol is something that we keep an eye on when we are talking with people. And there is research on people kind of developing an alcohol addiction to replace their food addiction. So it's something you need to be really vigilant about. Alcohol is okay after a sleeve if it's a little bit, like 1 or 2. You will get more drunk more easily after a sleeve, because the alcohol, when you've lost that weight, you're a little bit more sensitive, and also if you don't have as much food in your stomach, it kind of it absorbs a lot faster, and it tends to hit you a lot faster. So I've had patients say to me, I went to the theatre and I had 1 daiquiri and I was a disgrace. So we don't want those sorts of situations to happen. But more importantly, it's how often is it sneaking in, and are you using it for a coping mechanism? So a couple of times a week, a glass here or there, not going to be a problem. But if you're starting to, as a habit, come home, have a glass of wine when you get home, and then have a glass of wine with dinner, that's where we want to kind of nip that one in the bud pretty quickly if we can. Alcohol for Jenny is a major trigger for heartburn or reflux, so that's kind of good. Ruth, you haven't had a drink of alcohol since surgery. Look, I think that's perfectly fine too, and lots of people choose to abstain from alcohol as well, which is probably the easiest, but some people are what we call moderators, where you can have a glass here or there. Other people are what we call abstainers, where it's much better if they just say, no, I don't do that. Like, I don't eat chocolate anymore, or I don't drink alcohol. That's sort of easier. It depends on your personality. I guess that's kind of your know yourself better question. Jenny ruined my anniversary weekend away with a bottle of wine. That's not good. All right, so 4 pillars: how you eat, what you eat, your movement, and the everything else bucket. So the stress, the mindset, the alcohol. And what I want you to think about this week is really, am I doing really well in 1 or 2 or 3 or all of those areas, or do I need to kind of strengthen my house a little bit? Am I a bit wobbly? Maybe there's one that I need to focus on more than the others. And just remember that when you're trying to change habits, or when you're working on habits, the smaller the challenge, the better. So if you can just focus on one of those, that's much better than focusing on changing everything all in one go. So this week, just pick one of those pillars that's most important. Okay. All right. And what else? Okay. So I'm going to go on to Jenny's question. Jenny's question was about blended foods. I love this question. I can't believe we haven't spoken about it. I don't think we have. Someone in a sleeve group just told Jenny we shouldn't be eating soups. They commented that their dietitian advised against soup because eating like a chicken and veg soup is like eating solids and drinking broth at the same time, which we shouldn't do. And they also commented that we shouldn't eat blended soups like pumpkin because they're digested too quickly, so we don't absorb the nutrients and get the fiber. Any thoughts? I have thoughts, Jenny. I don't hate soup. I think soup is perfectly fine. There are a few things that I wanted to say about this. I think this myth has kind of come about from bands rather than sleeves or bypasses. And the reason I say that is liquidy food or blended food, especially if it's stuff like thick shakes, people in the past have blended things like McDonald's meals and then made it a little bit more liquidy. With a band, it means that you can get a lot more calories through the band and into the bottom of the stomach, into the remainder of the stomach. So it kind of bypasses the band and it doesn't give you that restriction. With a sleeve, it's a little bit different. Obviously, I don't want you pureeing things like McDonald's because it will go through, you will digest it a bit faster. But in winter, if you're going for something like a chicken and veg soup, absolutely fine. The reason we don't want you drinking and eating at the same time isn't because it goes through faster. It's more because if you're drinking, you're filling up that stomach and you're not getting the nutrients that you need from the meal because you're already full of water, and then there's not as much room for the food. And the other reason we don't want you eating and drinking at the same time is if you've got a full stomach of food and you put liquids on top, then it'll just come up. All right, that's that foamy kind of vomit, but it's more like a regurgitation. So the keys with soups, and this applies to stews too, Katrina, perfect, not much liquid. And if you are having a soup or a stew, make sure that it does have lots of protein in there and it does have veggies, and try to go half and half. So something like a pumpkin soup, add some protein to it. So make it pumpkin and chicken, make it pumpkin and red lentil, so pumpkin and chickpea, so that you're blending the protein in as well. Add some protein powder at the end, like clear protein powder at the end, like Benny protein. And if you do that, you're still getting the protein, you're still getting the nutrients of the vegetables, and you're still getting the fiber as well. So it should fill you up longer than something like a glass of water would. Just be mindful of your portion sizes though, and make sure that they're still about a cup. And if it's really good nutritious food, I don't mind at all. So I hope, has that made sense? Does that help? Jenny said she loves stews and soups. I love it too. So Andy with his wrist, I spent yesterday making a whole bunch of things that you can eat with one hand. So a beef and veggie stew, a chicken, like a chicken and olive-y kind of Spanish chicken stew, or slow cooker, spag bowl. We made a chicken and corn soup, and all of those are good, healthy options, and they're comfort food. They make you feel good. They're easy to reheat. They're easy to freeze. They are nutritious. There's lots of protein in there, lots of vegetables, so absolutely fine. All right, so good. I'm glad that helps, Jenny. I don't mind blended foods, and I don't mind soups as long as you are not eating and drinking at the same time. In terms of eating a sandwich and drinking a drink, that's okay by me. All right, let me just go back and see what's happened since last fortnight. You'll have a post. I'm going to publish a blog post tomorrow on the 4 pillars, so that what I've kind of explained today you'll be able to read. I'll also have another meal plan coming up at the end of the week, and if there's anything that you're interested in finding out about the shopping tips, let me know so that I can get in and do another shopping tips. We've had a few new members that you'll see over the next couple of days, which is exciting. So Tracy is here for the first time. Welcome, Tracy. And we've got a couple of other people. I'm just waiting for them to accept my invitation into the group, so they shouldn't be far away. So please make them feel welcome, as I know you always do. Beck. Awesome. So Beck posted and said, and I think Katrina also posted and said that, Kat and Beck had yearly blood tests done, best blood results ever for Kat, which is awesome. And Beck, 2-year follow-up with surgeon, dietitian, psych, and bloods, and everybody is happy, which is fabulous. You built some lean muscle mass, everything's normal. And Beck, I like that you reflected and said it's all a head game. And before you went and you had those reviews, you kind of felt like you might not have been doing the best job that you possibly could. And so I'm really glad that everything came back okay and so good and positive. And it shows, really, doesn't it, that maybe keeping in touch with your team is really, really important to make sure that you're getting the most out of this leave, and just give you that peace of mind, I guess, that everything is on track. Ross and Tani, hello. Never mind, Ross. And Kelly, I think you said you were doing some stuff at home as well. I'll post the replay after, so you can have a listen if you want. Jenny's bloods were perfect too, and we had a chat, didn't we, Jenny, about that TSH and maybe some link between TSH, high TSH, and thyroid function and keto, and it's just something to bear in mind and just have a chat with your doctor about, or the endocrinologist if you're seeing an endocrinologist. I need to look into that a little bit more. Vanessa, let me know if you found the details on the high protein chocolate, ice cream by Bulla. I had a look and I couldn't find it in my Woolies, but maybe in others. I would love to know. Beck, you found it in your Woolies, not at Coles. If anybody tries them, let me know. And if you have any other products that you see or use, things that you find helpful, just pop them in the group, because everybody can benefit from that. And we last week had the blueberry. Blueberry was the one before. I think we had sleep last week, so talking about sleep tonight, which is good. So let me know. We're just about out of time. I will really look forward to meeting more new people over the next couple of weeks with the Back on Track course. As again, I mentioned to Jenny at the beginning, if you feel free to share the link to the Back on Track course and give people in other bariatric groups the 20 off code. That means they'll get 20% off when they sign up. It's kind of like a friends and family discount, but I really appreciate you sharing it. Share it wide as you like. Put it in all the other bariatric groups. That would be fabulous. And I will be back in touch. So you've got a blog post coming on the 4 pillars and another meal plan towards the end of the week. And let me know if there's anything else that you think of that you'd like me to cover. Jenny, just last couple of comments, let me check it. Gone off keto and on lower carbs, so that's great. So I think it'd be interesting to see if that changes your blood test and your ultrasound results as well. And good, I'm glad blueberries was good for you, Jenny. Think those blueberries, think blue, as I say. Blueberries are really good, and they're good and healthy for us. They have lots of antioxidants, but they're also about the right size for a mouthful for us after a sleep too. Oh, Julie, let me send you... Yes, Julie, let me send you a private message. I'll send you some details so that you can get 20% off for sure. And Katrina, using a teaspoon, so you're downsizing on your way to a blueberry. Good. All right. I'm off to feed my one-handed man, so I will see you all in 2 weeks' time, but I'll talk to you before then. All right. See you soon. Bye, guys.